Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Wednesday, June 23rd. Okay, so we can jump into the accountability section very quickly today, and then I think that on top of there being not a ton of news, will have us have a relatively short day, which is interesting considering how even Monday was relatively short. So all I did in the time in between here was focus on Amazon Prime Day. And for this year, for Prime Day in particular, I really just caught up on some things that projects I had done before, wanted to get done, mostly just like home repair projects. There literally was no video games. No, literally isn't too extreme and too inaccurate. So we're going for cards here. We got a free 10 pack. Smartest move in my book is to get at least 10 packs of everything. And you know what we'll even do is once we have some extra gold past the new expansion, I'm gonna come back and even bounce out the old card expansions so that it shows that I do have at least 10 packs opened on every single expansion. Of course, all these cards are in the rotation only cards, so the only reason I'm opening them is because I want to have one of every card just for the artwork, which honestly, some of the artwork is very inconsistent with some of the other artwork, and none of it is like so amazing. None of the Shadowverse artwork is good enough that you'd want to make it your computer background or anything like that. Whereas I would say Magic the Gathering at least has an occasionally very good piece of art on their cards that does get turned into playmats and posters and wall scrolls and images. But it certainly is limited in the fact that there's just not that much room. Like, you can only really zoom in on the face. You can't have a big landscape picture or anything like that. Almost every card needs to have a humanoid subject, otherwise it's pretty dull. Like this Dragon Claw pendant here is not even focused as far as the color palette well enough, so it's particularly difficult to even see the Dragon Claw outside of all of this emanating energy that is bright pink red, because that is actually very distracting. You would really want to see this more linear and zoomed in a little bit more so you could see the Dragon Claw part of that. And that's true for any card, is that you just aren't going to have a particularly large canvas. So without that particularly large canvas, there is very little art you can actually do. Now, I probably have failed to log in again one of these days, and because of that I probably have missed 3 or 4 different experiences or different 10 pack openings. I'm just not really paying enough attention. But see, that definitely showed a nice result there, where the number of extra cards that we got from that was only 7. Of course, that might really mean what happened there is I had already used all of my dust to make a whole bunch of cards. And so now I've got like 2 copies of those old cards when really I already had made 1. So 2 different attempts to have at least 1 copy of everything may have overlaid each other there. Was that not the expansion that we just got? Maybe it was Bahamut. Yeah, it was Bahamut. Where, yeah, so like a 2 copy here is not really useful, and frankly I might want to dust those 2 copies if I was really trying to get a bunch of cards. See, but if we see 1 that's good, that was progress. If we see 2, that's probably not so good, but it's not too bad either. It seems like we mostly got 1, and in this case we got 1 animated, where I can't craft animated cards at all. So the thought as far as owning 1 of every card in its animated form is just not really possible, because you only have so many seers. Like if I was to try and animate this, I have 16 Sears globes. That is over the lifetime of me playing Shadowverse, which has been several months now. Nearly, I'd say nearly a year, at least half a year. You don't get those Sears globes that much, so that is another reason why you might want to specifically open old packs of old out of rotation cards. We can see that there is a considerable amount of cards still missing. And I have a considerable amount of dust, but I'm gonna struggle to find time to do it. There is definitely something very... Oh, good. Well, I haven't missed a day, so we should immediately jump into a private match now before it rolls over and the day restarts. So we gotta bring up the Discord again. Yep. I find it exhausting, a lot of work, certainly, to try and see every single thing that's labeled as a lightning deal or a deal at all on Prime Day. I think it's always worth mentioning that Prime Day is not so much a day full of really great deals compared to like slickdeals.net deals that are followed. It's more of an excuse to get the things you hadn't thought about or things you've been waiting to get. And with them moving the day that the Prime Day sale happens, it kind of helps in that aspect a lot more, because it is not then bunching up with a bunch of other holiday sales. That at this point, I think next year we may very well see Prime Day even try to claim itself to be a Juneteenth holiday, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more Juneteenth style branded sales next year, because that is now been declared a federal holiday. Jeez, this is just going by real fast. I may literally have to verify my phone just to find a match that actually matches. Let's see, like, I don't think I'm on any kind of delay on Discord, so there's just a lot of people that are trying to jump in. Let's just make sure there's not something weird going on here. Finally. Interesting. We don't have a lot of unlimited decks, so we'll just take this. I don't even think this is the right game. So but yeah,
my quarry won't escape that easy.
There was a few games, few very like lesser known games, nothing from Nintendo directly, nothing from Microsoft directly, or anything like that. And then there was just a lot of stuff, like not really a lot of any one specific category either. It's just Amazon has basically everything, and so if almost everybody has some level of a need or desire, or their life could be improved slightly by purchasing a lot of things, and so then it just comes down to how much money you have during the Prime Day, which a lot of people are constantly broke, and I find those people frankly dull, slightly annoying. Like a lot of people certainly are constantly broke because they're just bleeding extra expenses. Otherwise, that they're on the most expensive TV plan, they're the most expensive cell phone plan. They're eating out a ton instead of cooking food at home. They just don't have that frugal mentality or frugal lifestyle in their day-to-day lives, and that certainly can bleed people dry and make them constantly broke. A lot of people, even people who do definitely have the frugal mentality and lifestyle, don't understand the idea of how you can save money potentially by purchasing things when they're on sale instead of waiting until the very last second when things become emergencies, and then you end up buying things at the premium. But that is a difficult calculation to certainly do, because you have to basically put a value on the square footage of your house, and if you have, for instance, a garage full of stuff and it's been sitting for 2 years, and there's a percentage risk of that thing sitting in a garage for 2 years not even working when you go to actually need it, that's a bad deal. So generally I would say don't buy anything unless you specifically, I may have just barely gotten under the wire there, are going or planning on to use it in at least a year. Okay, so I think this will reset probably in less than 45 minutes, and then we'll end up doing that. And that did count towards the rank. Of course, like, some people can live the frugal lifestyle as much as possible and still be completely broke, and there's definitely some scenarios there that are fairly common, such as having too many kids for what you can afford, living in too poor of an environment, and it definitely is a hard thing to decide to move and leave your hometown or your small hometown or the small town mentality, but that is the number one thing that will keep someone broke for their entire life, is small thinking, small town mentality. And certainly I've had people argue with me fervently, because they're frankly stupid, that, well, things are cheaper in small towns, thus it's better to stay in a small town because the expenses are lower, without really running the numbers and understanding that while the expenses are lower, the amount of opportunity for employment and raises and good pay is way worse. That's not to say that everybody should move to California, LA, or New York, where it tips the scales the other way, but generally speaking, the better chance for success is to be in a mid to upper sized city. Some of that depends on your expertise, but even in that, small towns tend to be specifically designed to lock you into those kinds of financials and keep you broke forever. But yeah, I didn't really one strategy, to get back to the Amazon sales, since I kind of went on a rant there, as far as broke people, is that Amazon's the strategy of looking at the lightning deals, I don't think is particularly worthwhile. It hasn't been particularly great, and this year it was, I think, also pretty bad, worse than ever, really. But what I did find is that there were a lot of deals that you really could not. I guess we need to play either Swordcraft, Dragoncraft, or Heavencraft, or Portalcraft. Let's see if we can maybe play Portalcraft here. Let's see. None. Okay. Well, then I guess we'll just take Forestcraft and see. What I did find as a better strategy, and this will be what I'm going to work for towards next year, and frankly next year in particular is going to be probably very little being purchased. There's one project I've started, and I'm going to try and see if I can get it halfway done, as far as setting up a kind of jerry-rigged irrigation system. I'm frankly in a bad situation right now where too much water is being spent overwatering my lawn, and the timers that are running it, the cheaper timers, are not really cutting it. They're too difficult to program, and they're not accounting for when it's raining and the weather and the temperature and the time and anything. Well, they're accounting for time, and that's about it. Time and day of the week. So what you would generally want to do is just have an irrigation system done the normal way. Although, arguably, the normal way in an irrigation system at the moment is half going to be PVC piping all throughout your lawn, or half going to be PEX. I think PEX is going to be the way to go forward, but there might be some long-running issues as far as strength or long-lastingness of PEX versus PVC, because PEX has just been newer. I'm not sure if there's a great argument. One of the things is, like, sprinkler heads, in-ground sprinkler heads, tend to get mowed over and kicked and bumped, and PVC is a rigid connection and it's glued, so that I think has a slightly higher chance of things breaking than the piping breaking. The sprinkler heads themselves are basically disposable. They are going to break. So I would like to, I'm hoping PEX would be the better solution there. But yeah, the right way would be to install PEX, I think, for sprinkler heads and bury those all in the ground in trenches. The jerry-rigged way I'm doing it is I already have invested, like, and this is the bad situation about, like, when you first get a house with any kind of lawn, is that you, unless it has a sprinkler system built into it, you're going to then go get hoses, and you're going to go and get, like, above ground sprinklers, and if you care about the lawn at all, and you're just going to try and have it water like somebody with a lot of time and energy would have it. And very quickly you're going to find out that in the middle of the summer heat, when the grass needs to be watered the most, you really don't have energy, you probably don't have time, and you've invested probably several $100s in hoses and fixtures and sprinklers and things like that. So now I have that investment, so my jerry-rig solution here is I'm going to try and put the irrigation system valves on a outdoor faucet instead of plumbing that directly into, like, your water inline, your main line of your water thing, in a electrical box that I'm going to insulate. Now, the electrical box with insulation is a good idea in the first place because in the winter, if things freeze, that was a good way to, like, insulate the pipes and the faucet anyways. They don't make, as far as I can find, a rigid box to put around a faucet spigot outside. That they make bags and they make styrofoam things that are very cheap, probably cost less than 50 cents to make and get sold for like $10. The problem with those is you have to put them on, you have to take them off to use the faucet. The box itself, this electrical box, I'm going to cut some holes into it, and it's just going to be attached to the wall permanently. It's a moderately large box. One cannot deny that. It's more. It's a big gray box that will be on the wall, that will kind of stick out. It could be painted. It could be wallpapered with a print to look like the brick somewhat. But at the end of the day, it is going to be a bit of an eyesore. That being said, if it does its job well, then there'd be no more risk of that. Of course, you could. The other solution to this would have been to simply have a new spigot faucet put in that would account for being frostproof, and that with new construction is definitely the solution there. But with old houses, you just can't access the pipes and change that easily. If you could access the pipes and replace it, it is going to... It's a risky plumber call for sure. Like, you pretty much only would want to change out a regular spigot to be a frostproof spigot in old installations after the pipe had already frozen and burst. And I certainly could have gotten a smaller box if it was just trying to weatherproof it. Although sizing is, you have to be very careful there, because these are like, the size and depth of a spigot is not really in line, quite in line with the size and depth of an electrical box, where everything is a little bit flatter.
Let's go to the ends of the earth.
But yeah.
I won't let you get away.
Because I have the biggest size box that they had available, that allows me to take the extra bit of that room and add a backflow preventer, which are required for any irrigation system. They don't want irrigation systems to get any chemicals or stagnant water going back into the city water source, which you'd be surprised how many houses are actually backflowing water from their systems due to just thermal expansion into the city water source.
Punishment is a blessing in disguise.
Like a lot of houses, and most houses in the old days were not what they call closed systems, and actually did let the water, the cold water, go back, changing the pressure in your house and everywhere in your neighborhood.
Stop it.
Which, yeah, that is not something that I would have wanted to see in new construction. But I don't even think there's a code now that says you have to have a backflow preventer.
This has gotten quite out of hand.
I'll tear through your spirit and heart.
So yeah, backflow preventer is a very small device that you can just put on a hose, and the hoses typically use 3/4 piping, and I ordered all this stuff so I could dry fit it and make sure it all works, and then I'm gonna try and put 3 wraps of Teflon tape around everything. I've heard people even claim that you should use both Teflon tape and plumbing dope, I believe is what it is, which, just for double redundancies if stuff leaks. It wouldn't really matter if it leaked that much anyways, because it would just be leaking inside the box and then out onto the ground, as long as it's just dripping, not flowing. But we could do things right. Yeah, Teflon tape is very cheap. And so from the backflow preventer, I got a 4-way splitter for a regular old hose that have ball valves in them, which lets you turn a dial, and that adjusts the pressure. That allows me at some point to say, well, this setup over here has 3 sprinkler heads, and it needs a little bit more pressure, and this setup over here has just a drip irrigation system and it needs less pressure, and you can adjust it down. From that 4-way splitter, that's when it gets a little bit more complicated, because you need, I think we will certainly find out, you need a adapter to change from 3/4 connections down to, I believe, well, it would almost be up to, well, no, down to 1/2 connections, I think. And so, yeah, there you need like a adapter bushing coupler on one side to then go to an irrigation valve, which is just a little motor that opens and closes the tubes.
You're my prey. Now act
And
like
then,
it's all.
Then attach below that one valve. I ordered one electric valve, and assuming all the fittings and connectors works, then the next step for phase 2 would be to get 4 valves. There is a possibility even that there will be enough room in this box, because it's fairly big, that I could split it from a setup of having 4 valves per spigot up to 8 valves. And certainly the controller, which I'm planning on getting in phase 2 or phase 3, would be a ratio 3, and those come up into 16 zones. So theoretically, a front faucet and a back faucet with 8 different connectors is a lot of opportunity to split what is relatively low pressure on a hose spigot into 16 different times at which something turns on, and that's effectively what your goal here is to do, is to time share a lower amount of pressure compared to buying, building, or directly connecting to the main line of the water, the water intake. Like, you probably are going to get somewhere between, I guess 50 to maybe even somewhere up into the high 100s psi on your main line of water, depending on the city and where you are. But on this spigot, I'm hoping I can get somewhere between 35 psi and 40. And I bought a meter just to see how high it can get, or how high it normally is, for that point. If it turns out that my my water pressure on this faucets were below 20, I'd be shocked, because I'm already running sprinklers on them and they're working. But I can only run like 3 sprinklers in a daisy chain at most, and yeah, in the final phase, if I'm going to try and if I'm going to try really hard to have it all connected to PEX piping, I may very well only run 2 sprinkler heads, and there's going to be a need or desire to put a lot more sprinkler heads in than what I have as far as the above ground sprinklers installed, because right now the above ground sprinklers are not really cutting it, and they're having to be moved and reused to water places, and my yard particularly has a decent amount of shrubbery, I guess you'd call it, like other things that are not just grass, and so those would benefit from a different amount of watering and a different style of watering. And that's one of the things that the ratio can do and a cheap water timer can't do, is to say, oh, this is a flower bed and it's this kind of flowers, so we know to water this a little bit less. After you put in the valve, you then need to use another coupler to get it back to a hose. Or, at that point, in a later phase, you use not that coupler, but a different coupler to get it to a PEX pipe. PEX can be buried, and I don't think there's any real problem in it just being exposed to the open air. So PEX piping can just come straight out of the ground. It doesn't have to be in any kind of conduit or anything like that. You can just directly bury it. Oddly, you're almost certainly going to get it in pairs of blue and red colors, where blue would imply hot water, cold water, and red would imply hot water. But since you're using it for an irrigation system, there is slight danger. You gotta always call 811 in the United States to make sure you have every line marked, because you don't want to rent a trencher and then end up cutting through a wire or a gas pipe or something like that. But also, you're going to not really have to bury it that deep. Let's see, what do we want?
We've been bound, so I'm bound to protect.
So yeah, after the adapter, you then just connect a hose, or you can connect the irrigation system. Of course, if you're installing the PEX, then you have to use PEX B, I would suggest, and use the metal couplers. PEX A might actually be better, but it's going to be a lot more expensive to buy the PEX A expansion tool, and instead of just using clasps to clamp the ends on. And as long as you have stainless steel clamps, I think you're fine, even in direct bury scenarios where moisture will get on those clamps. Almost certainly something will go wrong in an irrigation system. Some connection somewhere will come loose over the years. That's just part of the cost of ownership, really. But yeah, you then take the PEX on the other end, and you would use an adapter to plug it into the bottom of a sprinkler head, which is again a 3/4, I think it's called MNPT connector, and so you have to have a PEX to MMPT adapter. You also will probably want to split the connections and try to have at least 2, if not 3 or more sprinkler heads on a single line. So you'll want a PEX T adapter, which means you'll have to do some more coupling to split the wires down. One of the weirdest things about this setup, as far as I've imagined it and as I'm going to work on it, is the fact that there really aren't the right number of wires. And I can't really understand why that is. Like, they sell wires that to connect to the valves to then connect to the supposed to be an indoor system, as far as the irrigation system, but they don't sell them in the right numbers. Like, as far as I can figure, if you tie like the ground of all the valves down to the shielding, then it seems like they give you 7 connectors when every system would be 8 Or they give you 9 connectors when the next system up would be either 12 or 16. Like, it doesn't make sense. Unless it's intentional and not just some weirdness where they want you to potentially run 2 sets of wires always, which that may not be a bad idea, because if the wire is cheap, and if you had 2 runs of the same wire and you needed to pull new wire, even though it's not through conduit, it still may be doable that you could tie the old wire to a new wire and just yank the old wire from point A all the way to point B in the ground. It's possible you could do that. That may also fail miserably. And arguably there probably is a better argument for conduit as far as the wire. In reality, the final installation here, as I'm jerry-rigging it, would be to have somebody pull the wire through the roof, and then it would totally be doable. But yeah, doubling up on the wire and having like 2 sets of 7 for what could be 8 connections works fairly well, unless you need actually 2 wires and you can't just tie the ground part of it to a common ground. I have no idea why you wouldn't be able to do that. It's just a simple motor. But if there was some reason you could not tie everything to a common ground through any number of electrical reasons, then those 7 connectors gets turned down to like 3.5 connectors, which, yeah, that 3.5 plus 3.5 would give you 7 connectors. And see, that doesn't make any sense either.
Awaken, for the end is near.
But you know what? If it really came down to that, that would be weird. But you could potentially just not use one of the valves. It's going to be certainly a tight fit to try to get 8 different hoses coming out of a box. It would be a lot of staggering, a lot of squeezing things. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if I can only squeeze 4. But 4 in the front faucet, 4 in the back faucet is still more than enough. Let's see.
Cheers and goodbye.
So, do I have anything else to talk about the irrigation system jerry-rigging that I'm trying to do? It's going to be a lot of work. I'm definitely going to need somebody's help to move the sprinkler heads and do it. But I'm going to try and get everything as set up and built on desk height inside, and then have a relatively short installation otherwise. And the box is going to be mounted on brick, so I bought some like screws, brick screws designed with a diamond tip drill that it came with. The other projects is I got a new shower head. I've been wanting that, a rain shower head with a hopefully extra long arm, and hopefully everything is easy to install there. The problem that could show itself is that you will I could have activated this card's ability and I didn't. That was just bad play. I'm not paying any attention at all.
The hour of the hunt has arrived.
The foreseeable problem as far as changing out the shower head is that the shower head spigot that needs to be replaced could be soldered in and not screw threaded in. And if that's the case, as soon as I start trying to twist it and unscrew it, as I won't really be able to see it, I'll try and look, certainly, but there's not much you can see through a tiny little hole. As soon as I try and twist it, it will either give no give at all, or it will just snap. And either one of those then requires a plumber to work his way through it. I could certainly cut a hole, an access hole in the back on the other side of the shower wall, because there's just a cabinet there. So I could try to go further, but even going further, if it's not threaded, then requires somebody to do some major replacements. Like the best thing I could think you could do without having to get a torch in there and solder a new connection through an access panel, or through breaking tile, which is definitely what you don't want to have to do, would be to try and use a shark bite connection. And the shark bite connections definitely sound to me like they're the worser option. I've not heard a lot of good things said about shark bite connections, but that would require no solder. I guess if it was PVC in the background and not copper, then PVC gluing might be a little bit more doable. But if it was PVC, then it would almost certainly be threaded too.
Nice marksmanship.
So yeah, that I may look and immediately go, okay, I need a plumber to install this. The other thing is I got a humidity fan and light kit for the bathroom to replace a standard light. And normally the way the kits work, and that was a pretty good discount, but of course this may very well immediately require an electrician to show up. I think I probably would want an electrician to show up just to be certain. Like I know what to do as far as wiring the wires and such, but
I will teach you
I'm not sure I want to bother with it. And instead of not, there's a slight value in having a bonded, insured person in case you burn down the house on accident. My wiring in particular is aluminum wiring, so you have to use special aluminum, the copper paste or purple caps, which are very expensive. So unless that bathroom just doesn't have the aluminum wiring, which it might not. But the cool thing about that is I found what at best I can figure is a device for growing marijuana or other plants that senses humidity and senses temperature and is programmable to turn on a device based on that humidity and temperature, but not both, in a weird way. So there is two wires for the 120 volts that come into this device, and then there are two wires that come out for when the humidity threshold is turned on, and so obviously you would turn that on to the humidity fan. That way there isn't a need to rewire it. Now normally what you would do is you would change the faceplate and the switch on the wall to a humidity sensing switch, but again that only works if it isn't a dual device, because then the only time the light would come on would be when the humidity was high, and that's not what you want. What I want is for the light switch to always come on the light switch to always turn on the light, and for it to power this secondary device that will adjust automatically when the fan comes on or fan comes out. Now you can get exhaust fans that have humidity sensing built in, just a lot more expensive. So it was cheaper to get this deal and get this device, and even the device itself is like $20, but it's still saving you at least $30 compared to that. There is also an adaptation it seems you can do later if you want to add Bluetooth to the exhaust fan, which I actually, as stupid as it is to suggest, I actually do think I might do that, but that can be a phase 2 concept, certainly. Because it is just an adaptation. The problem also is the Bluetooth replacement grill, fan grill, is like $75, and so I paid $30 for the exhaust fan, and it's hard to justify then paying $75 to add Bluetooth to it. Because the humidity sensor also has a heating sensor, I can either cap off those two ends and not use it, or if I get lucky enough, I can run the wires to rewire the whole system a little bit so that the space heater that is already installed, which is an old-fashioned garbage space heater and probably should be replaced at some point in the future too, I can run that second wire to the space heater so it will come on automatically at a certain temperature too, which that's kind of great, because then that makes an argument for using the space heater, but not much. And assuming I can get the wires all good, there's a possibility then the second light switch that turns on the space heater would control the exhaust fan and the space heater, and it would just run both of those, so then the lights could be turned on always without any concern of the space heater or heater coming on. And frankly, that the whole thing could just be left on the whole time.
Stop it!
The foreseeable problems there are that, and obviously I'm saying the foreseeable problems because I put a lot of thought into these, or at least a decent amount of thought into these projects first. The light wiring as it is a light switch circuit, and code is a little weird where you can basically string only so many light bulbs on a circuit and nothing else, whereas a space heater and exhaust fans are considered appliances and they're supposed to be on their own separate circuits, and so there is definitely a possibility that whatever circuit breaker the space heater is on is higher rated, or just according to code designed to take a higher amount of wattage. So one setup there definitely creates a scenario where the exhaust fan should not be on the same wire as the light, but obviously that's the way it's by default always installed. Let's see.
The hunt has only begun.
There is a lot of risks to messing up electronics. Oh, well, that sucks. In that all wiring and connections are supposed to be done in the box, in a junction box, So there's a slight risk there of doing that wrong, or just doing electrical wiring wrong. The exhaust fan is going to literally require cutting a bigger hole in the ceiling and cutting a hole in the wall. The wall is less than 3 feet away from the closest exterior wall is less than 3 feet away from where the fixture is going to go. So frankly, you could probably just reach up there and do all of the installation without even going in the roof. Going in the roof is never desirable, and that's certainly not something I'm willing to do anymore these days, so that would be something I'd pay someone else to do. But yeah, you need to install a 4-inch round exhaust kit with a aluminum foil tube hose to the exhaust part of the fan, and so that could be dangerous if your beams are going the other direction in your roof. Because if you do not want to drill a 4-inch circular hole through the beams of the cross beams of your roof. That will significantly lower your structural stability of your house. That is not code. You can only do at most 1/3 of the middle part of a cross beam, and even 1/3 is way too much in almost every scenario. So if you got up there and found that instead of the beams going in parallel, they were perpendicular to the way you needed to run the exhaust, then you would have to put the tube in such a way that it bent up and over the beams, which that would be a little bit more of a hassle, but totally doable. The only real problem is that if somehow there was just not enough room in between the two studs in the first place, if there was just something done completely wrong, instead of being on 16 inches or 24 inches, the beams were like really close. Like, I think the external dimensions of the box is like 10 inches, so that would be highly unlikely to actually happen. But if that did somehow happen, then you'd be in a weird position. But yeah, I can't imagine there will be anything else that would be a problem with that project. And see, these are just home remodel projects that I'm thinking about. They're very different from the RetroPie computer setup, which I will mention, I did find out that there is apparently in RetroPie a program that converts PDFs to images. So PDFs may be viewable, and so I'm going to work on that. Nobody's still commented on that code, so I assume I'm just going to work on it to... I got music and videos. I'm going to add photos, and then I'm going to add CBZs and label that kind of as comic books or something, manuals, maybe. There's definitely some weirdness as to how it could go. I like the idea of potentially being able to have a manual for every game viewable in the RetroPie. But even in that, Emulation Station doesn't really account for that very well, so it's not like you could select a game and then it would pop up a manual from a button there. That would require some real change to how Emulation Station itself works. which that would be a cool idea.
Now this would make a good poem.
And since for RetroPie, emulation station already is forked, that might be something I'll once again try to see if I can get people to support in some way and actually add. Because it doesn't make a lot of sense in that scenario to have a secondary category where you have to go and search for manuals. You would want that more directly connected to the actual ROM, in the same way that images of a specific ROM are directly connected to the ROM.
We've been bound, so I'm bound to protect.
Okay.
The hunt has only begun.
In strength,
See,
there is not
was
holding
there
back.
anything else? I got some really nice, like, probably some of the best wire strippers that you could get. Like, at the very last second of the Prime Day deals, they had some wire strippers on sale, and like, they were still $22 for two pairs of wire strippers, but they're usually like $50, so I've wanted to get a nice set of wire strippers. Like, I've had bad ones that suck. I don't do a lot of wiring these days,
Together, Mr.
but yeah, I splurged on that.
We won't give up.
Splurged on a few small things, but not really a lot.
Could have said you don't like me.
There's definitely not a lot I even remember buying. It all kinds of turns into a blur. I got a mattress pad, which, yeah, maybe that'll help with waking up in aches and with aches and
I am the
pains,
fires of war incarnate.
which is something
I
I've
am the fires of war incarnate.
noticed lately a lot, is that I'm waking up with a lot of aches and
won't let you
pains.
get away.
There was like a Prime Day sale where you got like a trash can for a car, and then I got some power adapters, and
Hot, isn't
like
it?
the power adapters in particular are acting very weird. They're not working for me, so I may have gotten ripped off on that. Got some cheap lawn decorations. There was, which I'm gonna try and spruce up the lawn. I have a fountain that's been broken, so I got a very, very cheap solar cell, like water pump sprouter. Unfortunately, it doesn't work because the water fountain I have is some kind of like way too big for its britches device. It's a giant like clay jar that, if the top part of it did hold water, then there wouldn't have been a problem. But the top part doesn't hold water. It drains it down to a well in the ground, and because it drains it down to a well in the ground, this cheap little pump can't access the water to spray it back up, and the whole system seems to be pretty much broken, so it's got to go. If I could fix it and get the voltages and current that the original pump used, I could put a probably bigger solar cell out there to power it and just either stick it on a wall or a roof. The problem is, in that area there's just no power outlets outside of my house. There were power outlets, but they were wired wrong and short-circuited fairly quickly.
This evergreen sword will cut through their ranks.
Let's go to the ends of the earth.
This
See.
is the
I
end.
should have given this one the ability
Like you.
to evolve.
Oh!
The dragon is the power of nature.
この国はいつか返す。
Yeah, I got like a plastic tablecloth on sale. Yeah. For what was basically 48 hours of work, it wasn't. It was probably a
Nice
decent
marksmanship.
amount of savings, but it was it was probably barely. Oh, I would say maybe $150 was saved by spending a massive amount. I did need to buy 2 new Samsung phones, so the Samsung S20 FE editions. I got 2 of those, and they were $150 each. So there's a decent savings there. But outside of buying that $900 worth of phones, I probably spent maybe $1,000 on top of that. Amazon Prime said that came out very late in the sale and said if you spent up to $600, if you spent $600 on the app
My core
buying
won't
stuff, you would
escape
get
that easy.
$70
You
later.
must die.
And they didn't tell me that at the beginning. I could have easily done that on day one. So that allowed me to buy what normally was $500 server case, which was only $400 on Amazon compared to Newegg. So I bought that, and that fixed that. There was really no Prime Day savings on that, but that potentially would get me $70 off of that, or that purchase, or that with buying a few other things.
This is the forest history.
I could have bought a
of
Nintendo
song.
Switch certainly at that point, and it would have, and a bunch of games, and you could easily get up to $600 by buying a Nintendo Switch and some games and accessories. But I opted to go with the server case instead, since that was something that was just unlikely to ever really be
Time to
on
play.
sale,
Time to retreat.
and it just being slightly cheaper on
Wingless child,
Amazon
let the
is the
heavens
best
be your
deal.
shepherd.
That server case in particular went from being $500 on Newegg to $700, if not $750 on Newegg, down to $400. So it was wildly swinging in price. It is still a massively expensive computer case. You have to look at it from the point of server equipment. It's very cheap for server equipment, but massively expensive for most people's uses, and massive overkill for most people's uses. You're not going to, in most scenarios, want 8 hot swap bay drives
Time to play.
that you then have to fill with 8 hard drives of some sort. And honestly, I haven't really worked on my server, so
You're done for.
this is what some will argue me putting money into a lost cause. But whatever, I enjoy it.
Let's play.
This.
Let's play.
And then do
I'm
this.
the Force Protector.
Interesting. So that's the best you can get out of that card. Definitely one of the problems with Prime Day, and I've been talking about Prime Day for about an hour and 10 minutes now. Well, one of the big problems is there's nobody that I have that really wants to hear what I have to say about Prime Day. It's like nobody likes to shop, frankly, and that gets back to a lot of people I know, and a lot of my friends are just broke constantly. But yeah. But yeah, one of my problems particularly is I kind of have everything I need. It gets harder and harder to say, oh, I'm missing out on that stuff. Like a lot of basic stuff I already have. So I am at a higher level of doing things a little bit weirder or a little bit different. That being said, that doesn't mean that if my situation changes that I could just live retired in peace forever. I would severely struggle to pay bills as much as the next person if situations align themselves that way so that happened. And there's very few people that wouldn't be in that same situation. Like, if my YouTube channel became super successful and say I could pay off my mortgage completely, that'd be great and all, but that still doesn't pay the taxes every year that come no matter what. That doesn't pay the bills, the electrical, the water, the internet, phone service. Guess you do this and this.
Hey, let's play. You wouldn't.
Yeah. But yeah, my plan for next year is to put a lot more things in to the Amazon shopping cart and then clicking save for later, particularly if there are things that don't really matter. Yeah, I think I got a couple things working towards an emergency prep kit to be a little bit more prepared, like a bag shower system. And the idea there is if water becomes undrinkable before a storm, I can fill up a tub liner I got full of water into a bathtub. But the problem there is then you kind of need a pump to get that water to go to like a water tower of your own making, which is where the bag shower comes. You would hang that like up in a high place, so then it would gravity feed through tubes and through a siphon into the back of toilet tanks. Otherwise your toilets are just not going to be conveniently filled. It is a hassle and probably a comedy of errors to potentially have to haul water or pump water with a hand pump out of the bag in the toilet into the back of it, the bag in the tub into the back of a toilet, like, and that's just not really a level of convenience. And frankly, any level of convenience you can have in an emergency helps keep sanity, keep people's sanity as much as possible. Let's see.
Hot, isn't it?
2 damage here. What 2 damage here?
Darn it! I won't lose next time.
You wouldn't.
But yeah, I'm still trying to build a emergency kit that is more believable. I got some emergency snap glow sticks, although candles I already had, because those were on sale. There was definitely a lot of like face masks. I got some clear face masks that aren't for medical use, they say very clearly, but would be decent for yard work or soldering, just to keep things from potentially splattering in your face. Got those very cheaply. There was a whole bunch of disposable face masks that instead of, I got face shields. But a lot of the face masks on Amazon are not like medically designed the way the medical ones are, so they're basically just cloth masks at that point. And if you're just gonna have disposable cloth masks, you might as well just have a reusable cloth mask at that point, and that is what most people need, frankly. It's just a reusable cloth mask.
I have no interest in weaklings.
A lot of them sell N95 masks, which are not the same as N95 masks.
I shall give birth to a new world.
So, yeah. I just don't think Amazon is particularly the right source to get
Splendid.
proper, well-designed, and not rip-off, knockoff products.
Howl cyclones, devour the land.
So, yeah, that is some of the stuff I saw, but didn't go too deep into it.
Give birth to a new world.
There's a decent chance that the next non-COVID related emergency has very little to do with a medical emergency. Let's see.
I won't let you get away.
Hit that. I should kill everything else. Yeah. So yeah, that was like the 2-day mini vacation with Prime Day that there was way more work than just playing Left 4 Dead 2, which is what I should have been doing. Yeah, and do I even have a reason to play these? You know, I might as well just do it.
Let's play.
And hit here, hit here, hit here.
You're not strong enough.
I need some way to gain 4 health,
Nice marksmanship.
and I didn't. So yeah, let's go into video game news. Like, the other issue I would say as far as video game news is that I felt like before I spent an hour and 20 minutes talking about Prime Day, I really didn't realize I had that much to say. I felt like there probably was gonna not be that much to cover, and yeah, maybe that is no longer the issue. Swordcraft, Havencraft, Portalcraft. I want to try some Havencraft or Portalcraft. So this is Havencraft. Do we even have a Portalcraft deck? Let's try that. So because I thought there wasn't going to be a large amount of stuff to talk about, I would have liked the fall list cleanup which that is the issue certainly that's going to happen next, is we are going to have a Steam Summer Sale come out.
For defeat.
So, Steam Summer Sale's probably gonna happen, and I think I've gone through several summer sales now where I've only spent about $100, and so I would like to spend closer to $300 on games. I don't know, I haven't put enough thought on it as far as the as far as what I actually would want to cover. This is not Portalcraft, is this? No, this is Shadowcraft. Well, if I win, I win, I guess. If I don't,
You must make
I don't.
the first move.
Open wide.
Now I'm yawning. That's not something I need to do.
It seems I've lost.
So yeah, I should have opened up a bunch of games to do flawless cleanup, but I couldn't really do that before I started streaming, because then that might get me blocked by Steam for a few minutes or an hour or two, and it would take up all the bandwidth. So I just failed to prepare horribly there, which that's fine. We probably aren't going to make it at this rate to any flawless cleanup, and we certainly have not really succeeded in doing a lot of flawless cleanup anyways. It is always just going to be a system and a process that's always a little bit behind, which is fine, right? I think we can just go in circles, and whenever we get to Z and go back to A, we'll just keep on going.
Do not seek what is not there.
Let's see.
Can I haunt you too?
I'm just going down my Twitter feed just to see what new news has happened in the past hour. Because I've just been yammering on. I was very shocked on this story, and we'll talk about it later, but Nintendo is shutting down Splatoon 2's online lounge in July, which, yeah, it's a shame, because I felt like Splatoon is one of those first steps in a multiplayer field that Nintendo could have put their Nintendo could have put their fingers into and tried a little bit, and they're not really supporting it, which more and more that just gives evidence that Nintendo will never support anything online at all. But yeah, I will have to do more research to find out if Splatoon 1 or Splatoon 2 has enough content in a single player only fashion to be even viable and worth playing. Alright, so let's go through the news fairly quickly here. OpenCritic has an article here. Aliens Fireteam gets a slightly revised name and a new August launch date, or August launch team. It's now called Fireteam Elite. It is coming out August 24th for the Series XS, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, and PC for Steam. Oh, I did box up my Xbox 360s. I had one, and then kind of a backup one, and boy, is that a massive amount of space that it took up when I finally boxed everything up. It's like just like 2 controllers with those big old brick plug adapters, and the Xbox 360s themselves are just big old devices. So
Uncharted desert awaits.
yeah, on top of which I had Lego Dimensions stuff for the Xbox 360, so that took up a whole nother box too.
What do we have here?
Continue to believe.
And I'm gonna try and give those away, but that on top of a massive collection of games is, ooh, it is taking up about the same size as a mini fridge, like, and is about the same weight as a mini fridge too, like just a lot of stuff. But there's definitely some value there, certainly, for any kid who's new to video games in general. They can play the collection of Lego games I have and kids games, and they can trade all the much larger collection of mature games. All of the 360 games, or almost all, no, a significant percentage of the 360 games are forward compatible, so you could certainly get an Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox One S, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series S. You could, I think they're all forward compatible, where you can just stick a Xbox 360 game in there and play and download the newer versions of it. And that's something not to be overlooked. Of course, that is also very complicated. Those are my Xboxes that had my profile that I got locked out of, so it was like 65,000 gamer score back when I cared about gamer score on that. And there's a lot of downloaded games on hard drives that all of that too is tied to that profile, so yeah, it's gonna be a hassle.
Ah, sweet child. Trickery is an art too.
Those centuries pass.
I can't keep
I
running from my
remember
sins.
all.
But you know, I should have gotten rid of the Xbox 360 a while ago, and just didn't get around to it. It was a little bit of work, frankly, too.
You see, I'm only getting stronger. I've struck it right. Get in there.
Yeah, it definitely was a little bit of work to get all the cords and things.
No, literally.
Moved out of my AV shelf TV thing, which now there's just like an entire shelf that's empty, which is fine.
Nice swordsmanship.
There is clearly a project at some point where I need to scale down my servers and put them in the room with the TV room, but that doesn't really make sense because the soundproofing would be terrible. So which one is Portalcraft? I wanted to play Portalcraft. Must, oh, here it is. It's way over here. So yeah, I don't know how I could get those in the same room without then having servers that make ridiculous amount of noise, and you wouldn't want to have to turn off your servers just to watch a TV or movie.
I bring unto you serenity.
Prepare for defeat.
Alright, let's start talking about video game news. Because I keep getting distracted.
System interface subroutine.
Let's see. Gematsu says Dragon Star Varnia for Switch launches August 3rd in the West.
When will this cruelty
No video there. Yeah, we have a game called Buddy and Lucky Solitaire, which interesting. It's a solitaire game, but then with some what look like Unity 3D assets, pre-made assets. $2.09 English full audio. I can't imagine though I would want to play that game and then have to really wonder as far as these games, things being labeled that way instead of just kid-friendly games, usually puzzle games from the looks of it. Can we get any reviews? Positive, very positive. Positive. Positive, very positive. Okay, well, I guess the thing is that there's not a lot of relevancy here, but these do look like kid-friendly games. So I'll have to think about it. I'll probably say no. If anything, I should consider the other games from this developer, which may have some more point to existing,
Then come and jam with me.
or point to being on the fall list. That's what I meant to say. Here we have a game called Jump Die Live, which is just apparently a parkour sliding platforming game. Doesn't really catch my attention. Bunch of language sports, $4.24. Let's see. Gamma Sutra says Rovio will revive some older Angry Bird titles after pulling them from sale. There's a quote here, I believe, specifically, while they come back and say that it was not cool of them to remove those games. I think if we probably cut the BS, Rovio dropped
How meaningless.
support and pulled old Angry Bird titles because they didn't want to spend the effort to upgrade them to probably, I think iPhone games have to be 64-bit now instead of 32-bit. If that's not the situation, it's some other Apple specific API and programming. Like these games would have been designed to run on the ARM chips, whereas now Apple has its own internal chips. I think maybe we haven't gotten to that point even yet. That is definitely the way they're going, though. So yeah, once Apple changed things, which Apple has done several times, they specifically just gave up on it, and now they probably come back and figured out a way to get them to run on the new hardware. Android doesn't get anywhere as many sales, even though Android is probably about somewhere close to 50% of all cell phones out there, half Apple, half Android, which still shows that Apple's is super successful. But even though it's about half, the amount of people willing to spend on an Android is considerably less. So when the Angry Birds games couldn't be on iPhone, they probably couldn't make enough money, or didn't make enough money for them to care. There's an article here that was retweeted by Cyan. I think the Myst remake is coming to Steam VR in Q3. this is the VR remake compared to several other remakes of Myst. Which, okay. Like, Cyan is constantly in the position where they're servicing the desires of fans and only fans. Well, can I even use the phrase only fans now? Instead of putting out new products that they'd like to see people check out and enjoy. They are working on a new game, but they've been taking a little too long for that, and they tried to publish a different game and it didn't get well received. Let's see, Gamma Sutra has an article. Unity has acquired the 3D data optimization software provider PixXYZ or PyXYZ software. It's probably Pixies. Would be, I guess, how you would pronounce that.
Just as well.
Here we have a game called Stride.net Open Alpha, which looks like a VR parkour game. I really have to wonder if you wouldn't potentially just like accidentally fall over playing a parkour game in VR. And then I also have to wonder about the idea of a parkour. It seems like it's some kind of tag game you're playing while parkouring. Like, the visuals and coolness of Mirror's Edge were because you actually saw Mirror's Edge. Whereas if it is just these low polygon avatars, that's not interesting at all. So yeah, that's $19.99 English only. Stride itself, the non-online game, is early access, and it is reviewed well, very positive, but I really have to question whether I'd want to play a game that looks like this. It's just VR or VR looking even when it's not in VR.
I'm built to judge verses, not vices.
Yeah, if anything, I think in a rare case, just being brought back to look at this, I don't think I want to put this on the follow list. Yeah. Like, I think I'm going to actually remove this from the following list because it's just not working visually for me. And I think that is a big part of what we would want to see.
I'm built to judge verses, not vices.
Suppose this is a mistake. Yeah, this is definitely a mistake. Next we have a game on Steam called Wood Killer, which looks like a low polygon horror game. $1.79 English full audio. Nothing there. Next we have Live by the Sword Tactics, which looks like an isometric tactical placement RPG game, and those have never really worked for me. $17.49, bunch of languages. These games are going to be easily dismissed. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Tencent has grabbed a majority stake in the Cycle and Specs Ops developer Jaeger. So Tencent's still trying to acquire a decent hold on the video game world. Although I don't know if I can particularly complain about that, considering one of the upcoming stories is that EA has bought out WB Games apparently, and I assume that includes also subsidiaries such as TT Games. And we'll get to that article and get more details in a few minutes. GDC 2021 will celebrate 25 years of Quake with John Romero. This is an advertisement for GDC. Gamasutra's parent company owns GDC. Gamasutra says Niantic will be adding exploration bonuses to Pokemon Go to get players moving again. Smart move. Yep. Angry Birds maker Rovio has signed a long-term partnership to create Moomin games, which I guess Moomin is a comic book. I think he's like a French or Swedish comic. Not very well known in the United States. Focuses on a family of rotund hippo-like creatures with endearingly large snouts. Apparently the series is very popular in Japan. Yeah. I don't recognize it, and I guess that may be a feather removed from my cap as far as being a Japanophile, because like I've seen it before, but I've never paid any attention. It definitely looked like it was more of a kid-friendly thing. Moving on, Gamasutra says Nier Automata and Replicant have reached a 7 million combined digital sales and shipments, which I think when you get that kind of headline, that probably tells you that in this case neither Nier Automata or Replicant did particularly well enough to stand out, or at least one of them did bad enough that they wanted to hide it. I would not be surprised if Replicant is not likely to sell a lot more, and so they're trying to buffer up Nier Replicant's sales and make it feel like it's a bit more of a success than it really was. It was always going to be a hard sell style of game anyways, being a remake of a very old game, but it did definitely have the benefit of being
Back straight, eyes forward.
being followed up by Nier Automata, which was a very successful game. Let's see, Gamasutra says GameStop is going to invest in growth initiatives after raising $1.12 billion through its ATM offering.
That concludes today's sermon.
Which, yeah, I really have to question if all the GameStop stonks ideas and jokes and memeing on Reddit hasn't just handed a effective financial loaded gun to children as far as the actual management and leadership of GameStop. But I mean, it's a much more interesting way to see GameStop potentially implode than just allowing the investment group to do to GameStop what they had done to Toys R Us. There might be a point, I suspect not in the next year, but there might be a point where GameStop straight up just goes bankrupt and is straight up liquidating things.
I'm already a proper lady, you know.
And there might be some sales or discounts there, but I suspect not, because I think Walmart or Target or any big superstore could easily buy at least all the new inventory products and bargain bin all the used inventory, or just leave GameStop liquidating its used inventory of games, which that's less interesting certainly, is if GameStop was going out of business and there was only used games available.
I will rise again.
But I don't have a problem with buying used games. I just have a problem with potentially not having access to new hardware. I'm not going to buy used hardware. a used Nintendo Switch sounds like the worst thing to buy. Honestly, though, I could see a used Xbox Series S or Xbox One S might be a decent trick.
Hey! No!
Let's see.
Look to the zenith. For there, I will
that.
rise.
Get that.
Who will pardon my sins?
Let's see. Yeah, they don't really talk about what the growth initiatives are. See. Envision.co says No Place for Bravery launches Q4 2021 for Switch and PC.
I will rise
This is
again.
not a game I've seen so far. Envision.co still is not really giving me a lot of new news. So, yeah. If I ever find a free second, I need to try a different source. But I definitely would keep envision.co.uk, envisioncommunity.co.uk. I keep it in the background of my mind and say, well, it is a decent source of news. It doesn't have a bunch of crazy SJW things being propagated and spouted off, but it is just not really giving a lot of new bits of news. That being said, all the tabs are in the same place. So World of Tanks update brings changes to the artillery gameplay. American battleships sail the World of Warship Legions. We may have already covered this. War Pips receiving major content updates. Yeah.
Let us pray.
A 2021 Black Desert Online roadmap revealed. Which I don't think Black Desert Online is always about pirates. But I guess that is the theme. Black Desert Online has been a very long running Korean MMO MOBA, and I suppose has been fairly successful.
Thus, the world ends.
That, and then hit that, and then destroy that, and then what does this one do? Right.
Oh, I've gone and mucked things up.
Heal.
You're in good hands.
Heal. I was hoping to heal that guy, but whatever.
The world cycles on. I shall give birth.
Let's see. According to Envision Community, RuneScape Elder God Wars City of Sintistan is out now. We already saw that
Let us
article.
pray for victory.
Cross out content update. Guiding Star is out now. Let's see what this game actually is. I've never heard of a game called Crossout. Feels like it's kind of a Mad Max car tank battle game. Apparently you have to play it on their website, and that's why I haven't seen it. They conceded. No big surprise there.
I pray that you will be freed from suffering.
We are at the verge of the tournament ending, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to spend some extra time trying to... I guess we are now stuck with doing Havencraft for today, and we're just not going to be able to get Swordcraft and Dragoncraft done. Which I guess that's smarter, since that was 50 gold and this is only 40, but this requires 4 victories, but this requires 5, so got a whole bunch of work to do anyways. Let's hope for quick victories. Let's see. Phantom Abyss has launched into early access according to Envision community. This is, I believe, the multiplayer parkouring game. Or is this a different multiplayer parkouring game? This definitely looks different than the trailer I saw before.
This fire burns for my friends.
But yeah, no, this is the same game. They've, I guess, just put more content in the trailer. Smash Legends presents a free new legend, Rapunzel. Smash Legends, another game I haven't really heard of. Let's see. Yeah, apparently this is another game that seems to only be playable on their own website. Which I guess that is fair and useful information to hear about games that aren't on Steam, because that's something that I definitely overlook otherwise. If they are decent games worth mentioning, which maybe they are, maybe they aren't, we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Envision says Near Replicant sells over 1 million units, so yeah. If they've sold over 1 million, then the 6 million otherwise is from the Nier Automata series. It's just end our turn. Let's jump around a bit too. Gametsu says Final Fantasy IX animated series for kids is in development. Cyber Group Studios produced series aimed at 8 to 13-year-olds.
No!
That's questionable, certainly, because like Final Fantasy IX as a game, I guess it is somewhat cutesy chibi, although frankly kind of old from 2016 graphics. But let's see, what was that we just saw at the top? Rated teen for violence, blood, suggestive things, partial nudity, mild language, and crude humor. So, yeah, 8 to 13. Is that teen in most people's minds? Interesting. Also, the listing here is different than the listing on the trailer video as far as what it's rated for. I also have to question, is there a real reason to play Final Fantasy IX, or do you just jump to Final Fantasy 13 to start with, and or the remake of Final Fantasy 7? Let's see. Gametsu says Type Moon Times Volume 3 set for June 23rd, featuring the Melty Blood type Luminia, which I guess this is going to be a presentation, although they almost make it out like it's going to be a animated skit. Let's see. Yeah. Here, Gametsu breaks it down better. That Nier Automata tops 6 million, Nier Replicant tops 1 million. Duel Masters Day Asobo is coming to Switch this summer in Japan, which I guess Duel Masters... Yeah, I do think I vaguely recalled that Duel Masters was still fairly popular in Japan. Collectible card games are still very popular, last I heard, in Japan. Even the lesser known ones, they're actually getting fairly popular in the United States, and there's a shortage. A first-person survival platformer inspired by Siam, Dark Deception, and Doom, called Escape from Naraka, launches July 29th. Let's see if we've got a trailer. Nope. We can look at the Steam page. So yeah, it looks like it's a Indian themed Isnaraka, the Indian religion's style of hell, or kind of hell like world. I think it might be. Definitely looks different. Like, this looks interesting. I'm gonna put it on the following list even though it isn't out yet, but there's a lot of room for failure too in a game like that. It may be just a little too formulaic in how you actually play it.
You were done for.
It's probably a mistake to just kill that character. Here we have a game on Steam called Mind Mist, which looks like it's a walking simulator, but it looks fairly pretty. So it would just really come down to the reviews. Seems like you're in kind of a surreal world where things change and all kinds of elements in it. It's Mist M-I-S-T, not Mist M-Y-S-T, but it very possibly is trying to do some kind of name confusion. What's interesting to take note from this is you see an actual character, you see other humans. Most walking simulators don't bother to have any other 3D human models. Seems like you can pick up things and read things. Seems like there's some kind of disease that broke out. $6.79, English and Turkish, both languages, full audio allegedly. Yeah, I'll put that on the follow list. It could easily be nothing, but could be something too.
Look to the zenith, for there I will rise.
Someone as beautiful as her could never
Yeah,
understand.
I don't know if you're really gonna make any kind of name confusion titling your game Mist M-I-S-T versus M-Y-S-T. I think anybody who knows what Mist is knows it's spelled M-Y-S-T, and those who don't probably won't care. Let's see, next we have a game called Mortal and Monster, which looks like it's a VR dungeon crawler hack and slash game. Doesn't look particularly interesting. 1999, English and Chinese. Here we have a game called Suspicious Downpour, which looks like it's a slightly low polygon game. It's tagged as a horror, comedy, puzzle, single player game. It's free to play, English only. I'm just gonna say check it out. I suspect there really isn't anything to this game worth playing, no. That would be my suspicion. Alright. If we were to do this,
There is not a soul without sin.
then evolve this.
The real battle begins.
Punish the wicked. Spare the innocent. Let
Do
judgment
that.
fall.
I said be quiet.
That should give me a little bit more room. Next we have Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, which is at 50% already. I guess at this point, while this game potentially would have a high relevancy, if no people aren't liking it, it probably is never going to get a player base, and I don't need to put it on the follow list. It's single player only.
Someone as beautiful as her could never
I heard on
understand.
the Giant Bombcast, from what little I barely even paid attention to it, the Dark Alliance wasn't really that good of a game originally anyways to bring that title back and reuse it. or use Dark Alliance from a D&D campaign called Dark Alliance. Maybe that's what they did. But yeah, people are not interested in this. But I'm going to put it on the fall list just to see if somehow it comes back and people really do figure out a way that they like it. There's always this question in my mind, particularly, is what is Dungeons and Dragons as a game? Is it supposed to be this high action hack and slash game, or should it be some slower turn-based RPG style game? I feel like Dungeons and Dragons followers play Dungeons and Dragons fairly slowly, so a slow turn-based Dungeons and Dragons experience probably is the right experience.
Stay away from me.
Do you understand now?
But yeah, they undoubtedly are trying to get a larger audience, but I'm not sure you're going to catch a larger audience with Dungeons and Dragons as your title. Wow, they were able to do like 15 damage in one turn. Oh, we'll try again. Next we have a game on Steam that is just Chinese characters. Looks like it is a half top-down, half side-scrolling box-pushing game puzzle. Not a terrible thought, but it doesn't support English, so I can't play it. The price is right at $1.59. Japanese only. Interesting. I would have kind of thought it was a Chinese game, but I was wrong. Let's see. According to envisioncommunity.co.uk, Planet Zoo Africa pack is out now. Rain Gaming and Sneak Energy designed a one-of-a-kind gaming laptop. That's not really video game news. Chernobyl Light Reddit AMA has been announced. When is that going to happen? That's actual news. The game launches on the 28th of July. When is the AMA? On the 24th, 6 p.m. Central Eastern Time. Eastern Standard Time. Or Common Eastern Standard Time. I'm not sure what CEST stands for, actually. Probably Common. See, King's Hunt launches Steam Open Beta. Do you have a video of what this is? Run around with swords. It kind of feels like a Battleborn style game with swords. Or maybe not a Battleborn game, maybe you just call it an Overwatch game. I think that's probably the more fair comparison to say it's a Overwatch style game. Let's see. PUBG Mystery is Unknown relaunched with Jonathan Frakes, which I haven't seen Jonathan Frakes in a long time, so yeah, he looks pretty old. I guess he hasn't shown up on the new Picard Star Trek show. So yeah. I don't like how this, yeah, he's wearing this big old shirt and big old jacket to hide that he's gotten fat. But yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he's fairly disabled too. He had a bad back even in Star Trek The Next Generation where his spine was fused. I wouldn't be surprised if that's way worse. That's why he would sometimes step over a chair and to sit down on it instead of like twisting or in bending over to sit down. Yeah, I imagine a lot of the next generation actors are particularly old, and Picard has gotten the best of that deal since he looked old even then when he was actually fairly young. Moving on, Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, the official video game, is out now. Which, okay. I don't know if I specifically would want to play the Olympics official video game versus the Mario and the Sonic at the Olympics video game. Dark Dungeons, Dark Alliance is out now. We already looked at that, so we don't really have to go any further. Killing Floor 2 Interstellar Insanity update is out now. Killing Floor 2, also arguably a game that competes against Back 4 Blood and Left 4 Dead 2 and any other of the Back 4 Blood competitors that are seemingly coming out in the next 12 months or so. And so if I haven't played Killing Floor 2, or if I have, it was a long enough time that I've forgotten about it. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if their iteration of groups shooting different kinds of horrific creatures hasn't just improved and improved and improved way more than what Back 4 Blood will do. Also, Killing Floor has the beautiful concept in which it is not just a zombie game, it's whatever they want as far as monsters. Different levels can have different monsters, no big problem there. Okay. It's probably a mistake to do this, but whatever. Hit that and hit that. Here we have a game on Steam, Labyrinth City Pier, The Maze Detective, which looks like it's a hidden object game from the looks of it. But I'm not really sure. Because it seems like you actually do walk around, which is a different idea, certainly, where you're walking around an animated area and actually looking for things in a Where's Waldo type experience. That really does put a whole new interactivity level to hidden object games that have just kind of been stagnant and boring up until this point. I want to put this on the follow list. $9.95, maybe a high ask, but I think they've got it. And see, most of these characters on screen, all they have to do is kind of sway back and forth and not look like stagnant characters or stagnant fake people. Otherwise they work perfectly well.
Smiles are the best medicine.
There we go. So yeah, that was a kind of hidden gem game. I like finding those. Next we have Sentry Obelisk of Dawn, which seems like it's some kind of VR esports type game that doesn't look really that interesting. I can't even really understand what you're doing from the screenshots, and I still can't really understand. And see, if a game is going to be very popular, particularly for esports, it has to be understandable at first glance, at least partially understandable. I don't understand any of this. $13.99, English full audio, online PvP. Yeah.
This is where I truly shine.
Let's see, next we have a game called Arausio, which is apparently an ancient theater built in Rome antiquity. Kind of feels like it's half the size or half of the Colosseum. Interesting. And there seems to be actual like conversations happening with people and actual education seemingly happening with people. It feels like this might be a decent little educational game about something I really don't know anything about. Problem: English not supported. Free to play. French only. Well, that's a shame. I want to see the reviews on this anyways, but that is a shame. And I wonder if Arausio in French translates to something different in English. Other game this developer made was a game called Hellink. Which just doesn't look too bad either. But it is also French too, so it doesn't look like there's a lot of hope that we'll be getting French to English translations of these games. Which is a shame for people like me who don't speak enough French to play a video game, for sure. I took French in school, but one of the lies about the second languages being taught in school, in public schools in the US, is that you'd actually be able to ever use it, and it's just not the case. You could probably, had I done the 2 years they wanted me to do of French classes, or there were some other language options, not a lot of them, I probably would have been able to take a vacation to France at that point, but not really hold deep, enthralling conversations. And that's a problem with any secondary language, is if you don't have someone who natively speaks it and can engage you in conversations, you're just not going to be able to maintain that knowledge. And so, yeah, you have to be very well helped and very well, I guess, trained. Otherwise, it's kind of a pointless endeavor. Guess we heal here. I guess we do that. Moving on, we have a Japanese titled game that looks like a spot the difference game. English not supported. Oh, Chinese. $1.79. Does not look bad, though. It really would just kind of come down to how cheap it is, which it seems fairly cheap, and how many different spot the difference puzzles it actually has. Here we have a game tag nudity and sexual content, so let me not show that, just in case it's not YouTube family friendly. It's just a jigsaw puzzle game with seemingly the same character each time, by anime style, a somewhat chubby faced character, somewhat chubby by Japanese style character. Doesn't really look like much of a jigsaw puzzle game. Doesn't really look like much of a game in general, as far as even one that might have nudity in it. It's $1.19, English only.
Gizmos like this every millennium.
Nothing of interest there. Here we have a game called Mystery of Camp Enigma, point and click adventure, or Camp Enigma 2, point and click adventure. So what we should look for here, since it's $8.99, the English full audio, is, do they have the first game? Yes. It came out May 14th, 2021. It's on the following list and it has only 4 user reviews, so I'm going to take it off because they're closer to flooding Steam than they are actually making a actual game of interest. Guess you do
Today
this.
we'll lift some heavy
No, I guess you
structures.
do
I shall
this.
give birth to a new world.
Such a good guinea pig.
And then I guess you do
A
this.
fair a day keeps the doctor away. Harder, faster, holier.
And then I guess you do
You were done for.
this.
Put your legs into each prayer.
No, I shouldn't have evolved there. That was a mistake. Should have evolved next next turn.
Up and running.
Here we have a game on Steam called Chess Valley, which it's an interesting idea where it is a constant endless runner, but you have to follow the rules of chess. Interesting. That seems like a decent way to teach people how to just play, how to just play the play the pieces and know how they work. I guess the question is, Chess Valley 1. Well, it came out February 21st, and it's positive. Mostly positive, so I'm gonna give this a follow. Now, arguably, I can make the exact same argument I just made and said he is flooding Steam with the same game, but I'm gonna overlook that in this case. But it certainly is a problem. We're seeing grow and grow as far as
There is not a soul
people
without sin.
putting the same games out over and over
The
again.
real battle begins.
Punish the wicked. Spare the innocent. Big trouble now.
I think we just want to play this and then end the turn because it's going to heal anyways. See, next we have a game on Steam called Deep Lake Prologue, which looks like
By your
a
will, O Lord.
visual novel / mystery game.
Code FMD.
It's free to play because it's a demo, it's English and Russian. I suppose what I want to do is just wait and see it when Deep Lake itself comes out. Here we have a game called Exodus Borealis, which seems like it is a city simulation management game. Well, I guess it's a tower defense game. Early access, $11.99, English full audio. I think it'd be fairly silly for me to ever cover or play a tower defense game.
System's overloaded.
There we go.
I
Are
pray
we-
that you will be freed from suffering.
Now in a situation where we could get away from Havencraft? No. But we do need to play another thing. So we'll have to remind ourselves to do that today. Let's see, envisioncommunity.co.uk says Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX is out now. They have a review for Super Magbot, but I'm not reading people's reviews anymore.
Is
The
fighting
Left 4 Dead
despair all
characters
you
are
know?
joining Zombie Army
The world
4.
called, and I
Let's see
answered.
if we... It seemed to be doing that. This is one of those situations where I wanted to see if I could fix this. So... Potential blockers. I want a green light YouTube. So it always allows YouTube. Then let's reload the page and see if that works. No, I think that's just a YouTube thing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try and install some new thing, and maybe there isn't even a new thing to install where the age restricted things are being blocked. But yeah, I definitely want to fix this somehow so I don't have to come to YouTube and then click I understand and wish to proceed. So these are like Left 4 Dead 1 characters. They've pretty much forgotten about the Left 4 Dead 2 characters. Which in all fairness, they should have never introduced the Left 4 Dead 2 characters. They should have just tried to merge the writing that they were adding and the backstory that they were adding to the Left 4 Dead 2 characters into the Left 4 Dead 1 visual presentations of those characters. Because once you created a character in the Left 4 Dead 1 series, you needed to do your very best to make that character as sellable and interesting and memorable as possible. And they didn't give enough character and backstory to the Left 4 Dead 1 characters, but they could have definitely fixed that easily. And you would think if they really cared, what they would do is have both Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 characters playable. Moving on, EnvisionCommunity.co says the Marvel's Avengers Cosmic Cube update has arrived. This is, I believe, the boring game nobody really liked. Yeah. With the visuals of characters that don't look like really the comic book characters much, or the TV characters or movie characters. Just in the turn there, I guess. Let's see, EnvisionCommunity.co.uk says Take-Two Interactive earned more than $2 billion in revenue from the US in fiscal year of 2021, which we're already done with fiscal year 2021? Wow. That seems early, but whatever. Okay, if we play this,
There is not a soul without sin.
and then we evolve this.
You were done for.
Punish the wicked. Spare the innocent. Let judgment fall.
That.
Stay away from me.
Let's see. My Hero, new My Hero Academia, the Strongest Hero update is live. This is a mobile game.
You've no idea
See.
how pitiful and wretched I
See what the
feel.
mobile game actually looks like. This might be a decent mobile game, and that is certainly a blind spot I have, is that I don't have a good source for mobile games. I might be somewhat suited to finding a new source as far as gaming that would highlight mobile games, but I don't know. Like, it doesn't really serve me well to get more interested in mobile gaming when I have no way of presenting mobile games on my YouTube channel or reviewing them, and I don't have time to be criticizing what is going to be 90% terrible games. I'm still having a decent amount of fun with Destiny Child. If anything, I'm starting to get towards a in phase of the game where I need just massive amounts of gold, and there's not a lot of easy ways to get gold.
At last I will be anointed.
You let go of my hand. No! Now you'll pay.
Though I said,
Stop!
I
No!
will
Let's
rise
see,
again.
PUBG Mobile Pro League EMEA Championship starts on June 24th. I guess that's news. Minecraft Marketplace Sonic the Hedgehog DLC is now available. This is all coming from Envision.co. Trove has arrived on Switch, which that looks like a Minecraft clone. And a game called Itora is coming to Windows PC later this year. What is Itora? Okay, that looks good. Like platformer, nicely animated and polished. Hack and slash game. Not bad looking. Let's see. What can we do to start with that? Play that.
All the fluffy hugs.
And in return. Let's see. Here we have a game on Steam, the Lego Builder's Journey, which this was the first non-TT game, Lego game made, I guess, in a long while for PC, and it definitely looks different. There's no focus here on minifigs. Instead, it is just you're going to move actual Lego pieces to help the son Lego character make it true to father Lego character in kind of a puzzle game. It's mostly positive, so I can immediately put this on the wish list, but I would argue $19.99 is asking quite a bit for what it probably only has. Well, does it say how many levels there are? Might be randomly generated. It has ray tracing elements, and they're promoting that. And this is published by Lego Games directly as their first game. Which, yeah, there's a decent chance that TT Games as a company might stop getting licenses to make the minifig Lego games, and Lego may very well start to try and make more of their own games. Lego kind of needs to go into the digital field. They've tried several different ways, but making plastic bricks and ripping people off to overcharge them for plastic bricks will only get them so far, and they have to kind of compete against people like Hasbro and other toy makers that have a few other things going for them. And at some point, physical toys may very much just not be popular at all with kids. So they need a backup. Next we have a game on Steam called Super Magbot, which is a precision platformer where you have to shoot magnets of different colors to attract and repel. It actually looks fairly polished for a precision platformer. Unfortunately, I just don't want to play precision platformers. $14.39, bunch of languages. Here we have a game that's all Asian characters. It looks like it is a bit more of an adventure platforming game. $2.99 Chinese only, English not supported. Here we have a game called Hopeless, Hoples. I don't think that's how you spell hopeless, but whatever. Looks like it is a frustration precision platformer. $9.99, English and Russian. Nothing of interest there. Guess we play this, and I guess we play this. Let's see. Kimetsu has the Alex Kidd and Miracle World DX launch trailer. Whereas I don't think the envisioncommunity.co.uk's, I don't think we looked, or if we did look, it didn't have a trailer. I'm not sure Alex Kidd is. A lot of these games that now are trying to get revived are so obscure that I don't know them. I don't recognize them. I can't imagine looking at this that this is guaranteed to be a winner. I suppose if this was fairly easy and I could just rush through it, I might be willing to play an Alex Kidd game. But if I started playing it and it was like an old NES game where it was just incredibly difficult, I think I would be fairly quick to rage quit it. Komatsu says Neo, The World Ends With You has details for the Shinjuku Reapers, missions, mechanics, battles, and new pins. Which, okay. At a certain point, this is just too much information that you really don't need. It has a really long image that they've put out here of all the characters. Yeah, at a certain point, it crosses the line from hyping people up for a game. Wow, it seems like there's some major social network concept going on here. We have to become friends with everybody. That's an interesting idea. I imagine a lot of visual novel games might benefit from that. And even the hacking game, what is that called? Watch Dogs might have benefited from a visual representation like that. Oh, 50-50 shot.
You're in good hands.
Didn't work.
You're in good hands.
See what else they've got to show. They have like every picture in English and in Japanese, which is doubling the length of this article. This is an incredibly long article with all the pictures compared to what Komatsu usually gives you.
Revel in the battle.
Just a lot of details. Let's see. They also have Legend of Mana Remaster pre-launch gameplay. Let's see what that looks like. I want to see actual gameplay and not cutscenes. Yeah, that doesn't look particularly well polished visually. That still looks fairly pixely. Some of these games you could probably upscale them all you want, but if you're not going to redraw them, they're still going to look really poor and pixely. Just don't think that there's a way to really fix that. There's just detail that is missing, or detail that was never there. Alright, well, you hit that with that. And do we want to evolve that? Nope. Let's see. Gametsu has the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles gameplay trailer.
I'm coming.
Do we really need to see the gameplay trailer of Greatest Ace Attorney? I don't think I do. Well, that is better animation than I thought it would have. Considering how the Ace Detective, Ace Attorney, whatever it was called, originally was very flat in its animations and just a flat 2D animated experience. Now they've scaled up to 3D models, which I definitely have seen an example of a lot of games try to go 3D and do a terrible job of it. And here you can see they're back to 2D in that conversation. I bet you see a lot more of that than they really want you to realize at the moment.
Guide you.
There we go. Here we have a game on Steam called Infees, which just looks like an asset flip, low polygon first person shooter. Early access 11/19 English only, allegedly full audio. Here we have Alex Kidd, which is already rated positive, so I guess Mob Rule says this needs to be on the wish list. Got another victory. Great. So we'll need to determine whether we need one more victory with this character. Yeah, one more victory from Havencraft, and then if we could potentially get some focus on some other things, that'd be great, but we probably just need to do the private game and the arena run. Yeah, I guess Alex Kidd, and let's see what other games is this publisher released. Buildings Have Feelings 2, Morbid, The Seven Acolytes.
Is fighting and despair all you know?
My soul howls in the bloody void.
It's a collection of games, but not a lot that are interesting. Here we have a game called Stranded Sails Prologue, which looks like it's a Stardew Valley Stranded on an Island pirate themed game. I might be interested in the actual game here. I am definitely not interested in the demo. So, yeah, this came out on October of 2019. Am I so averse to farming that I wouldn't even play a pirate game? That's the question. It is mostly positive. I'm gonna put this on the follow list and give it a chance. I'm gonna have to think about it for a while though. Here we have a game called My Business, which looks like it's a joke troll game. Here's the guy standing doing the splits between two cars. $3.59, bunch of languages. Here we have a game called Desolatium Prologue. I guess that's how you pronounce them. Looks interesting in one aspect and asset flipped and boring in every other aspect. I kind of like this pop-up screen, particularly here, as maybe some dialogue, but nah. It's a VR game, and maybe that's why it has that unique interface, but then everything else just looks very generic. $5.99 is a little too cheap for a VR game. It's English and Spanish. I guess you start with this one. Here we have a game called Magunstinch Chapter 1. I probably mispronounced that. It looks like a low polygon asset flip horror game. $4.49 English only. Yep. honestly, if a game came out like this and it became super popular, I would just immediately assume it's popular because streamers are covering it, and that's it. And I'd still dismiss it. So it's a real uphill battle for any kind of horror game that looks like it's an asset flip game or that looks like it is low polygon to even break that prejudice, I suppose is the right word to use, that I have. Of course, prejudging games by the way they look is pretty much the only way anybody can even slightly sort through the massive amount of games that come out on Steam. Although you don't particularly have to sort too much if you just want to play the well-known AAA games. You'll hear about those more than enough. Next we have a game on Steam called Pulsar Lost Colony, which looks like it's a space game, but it kind of feels like it's all over the place, and I'm not really seeing
Breach of contract.
any enemies or gameplay mechanic. Seems like it's some kind of co-op, almost Starbase Crew game or simulator. Single player online co-op. Seems to be VR too. It's rated very positively. I'm gonna give this another chance. I feel like I'm probably being a little bit critical today, which is fine. But I don't want to get too cut happy. Next we have Cute Animals memory card game, which, okay, Cute Animals memory card game, $1.19, English, Portuguese, and Spanish. But then it has a third-party EULA, and since it doesn't seem like it's really offering anything new, I can just easily ignore that. Next we have Slobbish Dragon Princess Love Plus, which is tagged as a visual novel and looks like a visual novel. It's not tagged to have any adult content though, so you may just get some cleavage and that's it. It's from Sakai Project as the publisher. Japanese full audio, English and Chinese subtitles, $4.49. Honestly, that price indicates to me that it's probably not much of a game, not much of a visual novel. So I'll put it on the follow list just for safety's sake, but I think I'll be surprised if it actually gets reviewed well. Let's see. Gametsu has Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD overview trailer. So, at the risk of Nintendo's illegal copyright claims for ad copy, we'll want to see if we can skip over this and see. Like, the graphics look good, but I kind of like to see a side-by-side comparison. And they seem like they're not willing to show that. And in all fairness, Nintendo is, with a game like this, probably targeting a younger audience, so that kind of confusion should not happen. This is one of the many Nintendo games that I never got around to playing. Like, honestly, at this point, I have so fallen off the Nintendo track as far as playing Nintendo games. I can barely call myself a Nintendo fan, and honestly I probably am not, because if I stopped playing Nintendo games after the Wii, and probably didn't even play most of the Nintendo games on the Wii,
There is not a soul without sin.
as far as the big ticket games such as Mario games, Zelda games, Metroid games, Star Fox games, things like that. Yeah, I have a huge backlog of games I might want to play. I suppose it is worth mentioning that Skyward Sword is also the game that gives you that massive extra ability if you buy the amiibo. A smartphone game called Atelier Online Alchemist of Brazili, or Brazil, launches July 8th in the West, which it's kind of early for them to try and convince people to play an Atelier mobile game in the West, considering how Atelier Ryza 1 and 2 barely started to get people's attention in the West. If they push too many games, we're gonna have a dot hack scenario where there's just a new dot hack game coming out every 6 months, and it just becomes overwhelming and boring.
I'm already a proper lady, you know.
Breach of contract, huh?
Okay.
A fair a day keeps the doctor away.
Alright. Hit that. Knights of Nightmare Remaster has been announced for Switch, iOS, and Android, due out in 2021 in Japan. Apparently this was a strategy shoot-'em-up RPG launched on the DS in September of 2008. I don't recognize this game. Famitsu's review scores for issue 1699 are out. Guilty Gear Strive was given 34 out of 40, kind of low. Hades for the Switch was given 38 out of 40, so very high. Mushikashite Obaki no Shatikiya for the Nintendo Switch was given a 33 out of 40, so that's fairly low. Summer Pockets Reflection Blue for the Switch was given a 32 out of 40.
No way!
I'm not sure what this Moshikashite game is. Yeah, I don't recognize any of those words other than no, which is just the word the, THE. Oh, that sucked.
I am a prisoner of this world's whims.
See, Worms Rumble is now available for the Xbox Series, Xbox One, Switch, and Epic Game Store. I guess it's going to come to Steam later or never. Didn't the Epic Game Store and Team 17 merge or get a partnership deal or something? Oh, it was already on Steam. Never mind.
Good cup tears their prey.
So,
This path.
Worms is tagged as a Peggy 7 game. Interesting.
No holding back.
I could certainly see some parents not liking the guns and gun violence in the Worm series to the point where they'd be confused by the ETH for everyone. What wasn't that? E10 plus fantasy violence? Yeah. It kind of is a great example of how pretty much every game has gun violence of some sort, and I'm surprised I missed this. It's mostly positive.
I can move
Should be on the
forward.
wish list. It's online PvP. Ah, that's why.
No! No! Stop!
That's why I missed it. And I guess I should use the ignore button more for my own benefit when stuff like that happens. Okay. Do this.
Today we'll lift some
And then
heavy
we do
structures.
this.
I shall give birth to a new world.
Yeah, in return. Here we have a game on Steam called Host 714, which
And that concludes today's
looks like it's just an RPG Maker game.
No!
$2.39, English only. Here we have Mystery Trackers Paxton Creek Avengers Collector's Edition from Big Fish Games. Is this going to be $12.99? Nope, $5.99. Interesting. Big Fish Games seems to go back and forth on its pricings these days. Here we have My Fox Desktop Wild Pet, which does not feel like it's actually a desktop pet. Seems like it's an actual game of some sort. Early access, $3.59, bunch of languages. Next we have Kiyomi 3, Consider It More and More. This is now pretty much a growing collection of, I guess, mini games. The first game is on the wish list, and I guess we were going to check out the first game. The second game came out September 29th, 2021. I suppose it's fairly easy to make these mini games, WarioWare style games.
Fighting and despair all you
So
know?
it's not surprising that they have figured out a way to make them fairly quickly. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more to say about the game though. Here we have something called Momiji from Purgatory, which this girl looks like she's maybe topless, although it's not tagged as having any nudity in it. You have like a marijuana leaf in the corner and what looks like an asset flip horror game. It kind of is giving me the feeling that it might be a beat 'em up game or a hack and slash game, but I just don't really believe that's what is going on here. It's $4.49. It's English, Japanese, and Japanese full audio and Chinese. I think I'm gonna have to look at the video and just see the actual gameplay here. I see a generic life and stamina bar. I see a first-person game where you're wandering around, and then it summons something that chases after you and attacks you. And I'm seeing hacking and slashing. What I feel is that this was a game that tried to be way too ambitious and did not have the visual graphics to back it up. Yeah, I'm seeing kicking and punching and hacking and slashing mechanics on very, relatively speaking, low polygon images or 3D models. So yeah, the whole game just feels like a tech demo. $4.49. I'm gonna have to say no to that. Let's see, next we have a game called Halfwing, which looks like a platformer, but it might be a good platformer. There's a lot of stuff on the screen, so it might be too much of a bullet hell platformer for me. Let's see if we can watch a little gameplay. There was no nudity in that game, Momiji from Hell or Purgatory. Like, just implication that there would be. Yeah, this is probably not, it's too much of a bullet hell shooter for me. $9.99, English, alleged full audio. I'm gonna put this on the follow list just to rethink it, but I'll probably would reject it. Next we have Soulfire Weapon Master, which seems to be a action game, or it's tagged as a battle royale game. Seems like sometimes it's 2.5D and sometimes it's really 3D. What just happened there? Did that character just lose all their armor? Yeah, and they went in a bikini. And that character just got stabbed in the back by an assassin. But see, this whole gameplay looks completely different from what that trailer was showing, so it feels like deceptive animation or practices. This is early access, $6.99 English and Chinese, and it's online PvP, and that's the problem. I, in my youth, wondered why, and I guess I still wonder why we have never really seen a more pirate-themed sword play fighting game. And I guess a lot of that probably comes from the fact that you already have like Samurai Shodown with its kind of swordplay, samurai fighting style of gameplay, and because there wasn't anything, there was more pirate themed as far as Western pirates at the time. That Samurai Shodown and those kinds of fighting games came out, it didn't have that concept, never was given enough time to flourish and establish itself. Next we have a game that's all Asian characters, which looks to me like it's probably mostly a visual novel. English is not supported, $11.04, Japanese only, so we'll have to skip over that. Here we have a game called Army of Numbers, which looks like nothing of interest, for $1.59, English and Chinese. Let's see, here we have a game called Dawn Wander, which looks like just a first-person shooter asset flip, $7.99, English allegedly full audio. Let's see.
There is not a soul without sin.
You were done for.
Punish the wicked. Let judgment fall. It's time to retreat.
Let's see. Gametsu has Sword of Legends online, launching July 9th in the West. Not heard of Sword of Legends online, but it definitely looks like one of these Asian MOBAs. Like, honestly, they're so late to the party. I guess Soul Calibur is a game that is around weapon fighting, but Soul Calibur did not really go too much in the pirate theme. There's like one character that I know of that's a pirate in Soul Calibur, and that's it. And I know that there's a pirate theme. Sword of Legends here goes more in the Asian mythos design, so there's swords.
I envy you.
Let's see. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 for the PS5 launches August 24th, according to Gametsu. A game called Vesper launches July 30th. It's a puzzle platformer. Apparently, it's got a Steam page. I'm a little surprised that a Steam sale didn't actually just happen the second Prime Day ended. It seems to me like what they're going to do is probably wait a week or so, but a week really doesn't change anything. They'd have to wait a full month, full 30 days before people's like credit cards would have to be paid off. Which, yeah, definitely after Prime Day, I'm gonna have to make an extra payment on credit cards just to be certain.
Is
Let's see.
fighting and despair all you know? May eternal
Yeah, I just
peace
used
be
the credit
yours.
cards for cash back and paid them all off every month, so I never carry a balance over. That's the way you go into debt real fast. Yeah, I can see the beginning of the end too, and since it's been 3 hours, I think we'll probably just wrap it up. Xbox Game Pass here, according to Komatsu, adds Gang Beast, Bug Fables, The Everlasting Sapling, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, and more in late June, early July. And Bug Fables is an outstanding game in the sense that I have never heard of it. But then again, I don't recognize Proteus either. Interesting, they ignore Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts in that headline for Komatsu. I guess that just shows how uninterested they are in that game. Whereas in the West, a Western news source would probably highlight that game. Proteus.
Every shot is a miracle.
First-person shooter of some sort. Bug Fables is a puzzle, I assume, kids game. Immortal Realms Vampire Wars. Is that a new game? Or an old game? I wish they would mention the date that these games came out originally. That would be helpful information. Games that are leaving are Battle Chasers Night War, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, The Messenger, Mistover, Monster Hunter World, Out of the Park Baseball 21, and The Outer Wilds, and Soul Calibur 6. And people don't bother to mention the ones that are leaving, because it probably doesn't matter. If you didn't play them when you could, you probably don't care to play them. Here we have a game on Steam called Bang Bang Shooting, which looks like nothing. Oh, I should mention that Steam has limited the number of times you can change your region now, so it is going to be harder, if not impossible, to jump to a different region and buy a game at potentially a cheaper price. This game is $6.29, Chinese only. It looks like it's a top-down twin-stick shooter. For most people, I think people aren't really going through the hassle of changing regions. Anyways, so I think that's only going to really affect a percentage of people trying to get cheaper games. See, here we have a game on Steam called Ghost of the Seas. Looks like it's a asset flip survival builder game though. Does not feel like anything. Created by a one-man developer using Unity. That's not really a selling point anymore, particularly if your game does not look impeccably interesting and polished. $14.99 English only. Yeah. Even something that is made by one person and looks great still is not really a good selling point. Here we have what looks like a Chinese rhythm guitar game. It's all over the place. You've got like a robotic dinosaur, you've got fairies, you've got a whole bunch of craziness. Early access, English not supported, $3.99 Chinese only. Here we have a game on Steam called Was It Worth It? Which seems like it's a walking simulator. Let's see. $4.49, third party EULA, English full audio. I'll give it a follow. if I wanted to get particularly enraged, I think it would be very easy to just say no more third-party EULA games. We're just gonna blacklist all of them. That is a little too extreme, but it usually is an indicator that something that has a third-party EULA is doing something wonky or making a pretty low quality game. But then the problem with that idea is certainly every AAA game sometimes has, a lot of AAA games also have third-party end-user license agreements. Here we have a game called Redacted Epilogue, which looks like it's an RPG Maker game. $4.49, English only. Here we have a game called Rail Route, which we've seen games like this before. I'm not sure I'd really want to play a game like this. It seems like you're just doing someone's job and it's not visually polished enough. Early access, $13.49, bunch of languages. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say no to that. Okay. Hit this.
There is not a soul without sin.
Evolve this.
You were done for.
Punish the wicked. Let judgment
Hit
fall.
this.
I know when I've lost.
Guide you.
Here we have a game on Steam called Spirit Bounce, which looks like they're trying to make an Arkanoid game, but then you're playing as ghosts, which is an interesting idea, certainly, and seems like you might sometimes have a little bit more control of the game. Honestly, it feels like it's a fairly slow comparison to Arkanoid, though. Like, the ball seems to slow down. It seems like it's fairly impossible to even miss. Doesn't even seem like you take damage or lose health when you do miss. It's early access, coming soon. English, Portuguese, Brazil. The idea of a character flinging a ball is an interesting idea, though. I will grant him that. That is an improvement compared to the way it normally goes. Hit that.
Smiles are the best medicine.
Then hit that. And then end the turn. Gamatsu says Multi-Blood type Lumnia adds a PC version and launches September 30th.
A painless death is the mercy I can afford you.
What kind of game is this? This is a fighting game. Fighting game with a maid and a frying pan and a sword. I feel like there's an anime called Multi-Blood. I don't know if it was particularly a good anime or not. Maybe it wasn't one. This definitely looks like an anime, so I may have just seen other Multi-Blood type fighting games. If anything, it kind of feels like it's part of the Fate Stay Night universe, which maybe it is. Okay. What won't kill me? I have to question if there's anything that will save me here.
Today we'll lift some heavy scriptures. It looks like I'm up. Stop! Harder, faster, holier!
Okay. We need to evolve
The real battle begins.
and kill something.
I've been spotted.
Yeah. that probably won't save me. Let's see. Gametsu has Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin opening movie and pre-launch gameplay, which, wow, this definitely looks like a fancier game than I would have immediately thought it was, because I thought the Wings of Ruin series was more of a, I guess, Switch-focused game or mobile phone game. I guess at this point, though, what is your mobile, low-effort animation style? What is your target audience there? Because it's either a cell phone with low graphics, or the Switch, which the Switch is practically a requirement to still have decent graphics. Yeah, we only really have enough time for, I think, we only have enough news for a couple more games. Alright, so last time we did Rise of Bahamut, now we'll do Tempest of the Gods. It would be really nice if these cards had at least the odds turned way up that you would get high quality cards. Also, it would just be nice if they fairly consistently always gave you 10 free packs. Even if they limited you to older card sets, 10 free packs to catch up would be nice. Honestly, I feel like Shadowverse has not been up until this 5th anniversary event particularly generous. Like, they're really not helping old players catch up at all and get the old cards. What is this one? Yeah, here is a great example of the old art that would just not be allowed here. I mean, you've got basically nipple pasties on this character. Oh, I guess they colored this in, so this is supposed to be a shirt, but at first glance, if you don't see this line here, I was just assuming that is boob and that is boob. And I imagine that's probably what the original drawing of it was. Even at that, compared to modern drawings, you've got a lot of belly button and fairly low belly button, and then high hip cutouts on the sides and a lot of thighs too. So yeah, you just would not see that kind of art for Shadowverse these days, as they decide to become kid friendly all of a sudden. Which is just a ridiculous thought. So, if we now come over and look at the cards and filter this to Tempest and create cards, we got one new there, and still plenty to miss. One new there, one animated one here, one there, or was that two there? Yeah, one here, one here, one here. One there, one there, one there, one there, one there, and one there. Or three there. One there. And one there. So, yep. And that left me with just 8 extra cards to liquefy. Not a bad deal. Alright, meanwhile, we're awaiting the results on this one, and we need to register for this day, so we need to play a private game, which we will try this again. 2, 7, 9, 5, 7. Yep, I knew I was too slow on that one. 8, 0, 3, 6, 6, 6, 2. Hmm. 8, 9, 7, 4, 1. There you go. 3, 8, 2, 2, 2. There we go. Yeah, there's a lot of videos here.
Is fighting and
A lot of
despair all
videos
you
of
know?
Monster Hunter 2.
Sword deserves a pointed response.
Interesting. It's due out for the Switch and PC on July 9th. So, yeah. I guess we may have finally hit a point where even if you are kind of targeting lesser graphics, there's not really a reason to make your graphics particularly terrible, because even the Switch can handle moderately decent animation.
It looks like I'm up.
So it seems like we've kind of raised the bar. This guy said he was passing, so this will be an easy victory for me. Here we have a game on Steam called Comic Company Manager, which, yeah, I don't see a reason why I'd want to play a game like that. $3.99 English only, early access. Like, part of the problem with that idea that falls apart is that comic book companies don't have people working out of offices, really. Everybody is a contractor and works out of their own house. There's really no reason to have somebody come to an office and work together. The only people at the offices of like a DC and Marvel are just the management goons, as it were, the people that are taking the meetings that don't matter and
Is that how you treat a lady?
and not doing anything else with their day. Gametsu has another cool game called Lost at Sea, launches July 15th. It's a narrative adventure game about life and death. Do we have a trailer? Nope. Let's see, we already talked about this, I think, but Tencent grabs a majority stake in the Cycle and Specsoft developer Jaeger, according to Gamma Sutra. According to Gametsu, the hand-painted action-adventure game Itora has been announced for PC. We saw that already. Yeah, we have a game called Run Prop Run, which I assume is a prop hunter type game.
I'm already a proper lady, you know.
Breach of contract.
Should have played this instead. That would have made more sense. So, yeah, it kind of feels like Prop Hunter, except for the props are moving. I'm a little surprised that they didn't make a Prop Hunter game like this way earlier, instead of trying to take it out of the Minecraft mod idea. Early access, $8.49. Does it work as a game? Maybe, but it's online PvP, so I'll really never know.
Smiles are the best medicine. Is that how you treat a
that,
lady? Is that how you
that.
treat a lady?
Play that in the turn. Hurry, hurry, hurry. See, EnvisionCommunity.co says Doki Doki Literature Club Plus Physical Edition is coming to Europe. They also say that a game called the Isklander Trilogy is going to make its debut on July 1st, which weird that there would be 3 games getting released at the exact same time. They feel like they are full motion video games. Gamatsu says Space Jam: A New Legacy, the game, is coming out for Xbox Series, Xbox One, July 1st, Xbox Pass Ultimate users, July 15th for everyone else. Which, yeah, is there a video here? Seems like it's gonna be low polygon, kind of pixely beat 'em up game. Yeah, didn't seem like they put a lot of effort into it, and maybe that's the right way to go. I don't think the movie itself is particularly that good. I need to not take too long, because remember, this guy is trying to help me by passing and letting me win.
Is that how you treat a lady? It takes so much for that axe. You're in good hands.
Yeah, we have a game on Steam called Path of Sacrifice, which looks like a platformer of no real visual polish. $3.99, English and Chinese. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Pokemon leakers have been told to pay $150,000 each in damages to the Pokemon Company. Yeah, I'm sure the Pokemon Company will never see a dime of that.
Smiles are not
Along with the attorney fees after taking and uploading photographs of an unreleased sealed and stored strategy guide to the internet back in 2019. Now, the question I would want to know here, is this copyright infringement filings in the United States? I suspect this probably was a copyright ruling in the United States. Okay. So, yeah, probably don't leak things unless you can guarantee you're not going to get caught, which you can never really guarantee you're not going to get caught. So, probably don't leak things. It definitely didn't get those people $150,000 worth of profit to leak things. So, yeah, normally I would try and do this, and I can, I guess, just start the process and jump in here, but yeah, I'm not gonna really get anywhere with this. Just select without even looking, and then I can start one game while we covering. We have about 30 more tabs, and then I kind of want to just make sure there isn't any big news, and then we can leave everything else for Friday, which now the challenge going forward is to get back into the groove of making content and get out of the groove of doing side projects and shopping on Prime Day, which Prime Day is an easy thing to disembark from considering how it just ends. Here, Gamatsu has Guild of Darksteel launching July 15th. The PS4 version has been cancelled, so now it's only PC and Switch. Let's see, side-scrolling adventure game. Let's see. We can see a little bit more of it. I remember playing a very old like Apple II game that kind of looked like that. This. I can't ever remember the name of it or what it was. I don't even know if it was an Apple II computer. Like, there definitely is at least one game that I remember from my early youth that I'm not sure I didn't just dream up, or it's just, it looked in my mind so different from what it really was that I can't ever find it or figure it out. Here we have a game on Steam called AMG, which looks like a space battle game. It's free to play with in-app purchases, MMO, English and Chinese. No interest in that. Open Critic has an article here. PAX West 2021 returns to Seattle for an in-person event this summer. They also put out like safety guidelines as far as, you know, what they're going to ask people to do, and one would hope that they would stick to those safety guidelines and not just change the rules and regulations willy-nilly. The COVID pandemic variant D has become the new big problem, and COVID never really stopped existing in any variant. Meanwhile, the number of people willing to get vaccinated at this point who haven't gotten vaccinated in the United States is quickly diminishing to zero.
May the dark clouds be dispersed.
Which is certainly a recipe for disaster for just a long-term plague type experience. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. EA buys Golf Clash developer Playdemic from AT&T and WB Games for $1.4 billion, which is crazy that EA would have spent that much for Playdemic, because I don't even recognize Playdemic. I thought EA had bought all of WB Games. These numbers are ridiculous that they sold the whole company for $43 billion. It's ridiculous. Any business can be working in the billions when there are still people starving and struggling in the streets. But that's a side comment, certainly.
Shine, beloved spear.
I wasn't good enough.
Let's see. Gamma Sutra says the Epic Online service has been expanded with free anti-cheat and voice chat tools. Epic still trying to copy all the functionality that Steam offers. Gamma Sutra has the article. Nintendo will shut down Splatoon 2 Online Lounge in July. This feature allowed players to use the Nintendo Switch Online app to arrange online battles using their smart devices by sending a URL link that allows other players to join the room. So basically the matchmaking feature as it was cobbled together. Although, in all fairness, it might be a case that they're shutting it down because there is it is not integrated into the later released Nintendo Online service, and so they don't want to have to support that individual service on top of things. Says developers say that it will still support voice chat and that no other changes to game-specific services will be made to the app at this time. Splatoon 3 was announced at Nintendo Direct sometime in 2022, so it's kind of ridiculous for them to not better maintain their fan base in the meanwhile. Here we have a game called Out of Line, which Seems like it's a platformer puzzler game. It looks kind of empty, but it looks nicely animated, so I'd be willing to give it a bit more of a chance. $11.69, a bunch of languages. I'll give it a follow, but I could have easily see that's not really being much of a game. Let's see. Draw 3 cards.
Lovely day for a
So
fight.
you have chosen.
Let's see. Gamatsu says the romance visual novel Our Battle Has Just Begun, episode 1, has been announced for Switch and PC due out July 15th. Which, is there a trailer here? Can I show the trailer? I assume this is kind of a fantasy fighting visual novel.
An azure befitting.
You got anime girls, but fairly covered up in armor. So yeah. Wouldn't call this one particularly lewd in looking at the characters. Yep. Not that every visual novel is lewd. I guess it's important to put that out.
I'll do what I want.
Well, aren't you
No holding
something?
back.
Let's see.
Well, aren't you
Gamatsu
something?
says Uta no Prince, Sama All-Star, and Uta no Prince, Sama All-Star After Secret is coming to Switch. So Uta the Prince, or the Elder, or Prince, or the Senior Prince. Let's see. Alright, nothing, I guess, more to say there. It looks like it's a otome visual novel. Originally came out for the PlayStation Portable in 2013. It'd be interesting if I could get a better handle as far as how many of these visual novels are just being re-released compared to games that are
Fear and despair are no
new.
match for me.
March on!
Let's hit that.
The light of courage will pierce the darkness. Shine forth.
Smack
You can
there.
count on me, Risha.
See, Gamatsu says Chernobylite PS4 Physical Edition has been announced. This game, Chernobylite, seems like it might be a bigger deal than I thought.
This new contract.
We already talked about that. Out of Line, we already talked about. Here we have a game on Steam called Deflection Prologue, which looks like a 3D laser game. Is it it's online PvP is the problem though.
Safe big.
This laser chess idea.
Fighting.
Not a terrible thought, but it's online only. Unless this game is actually not gonna be online. Well, it does say it might have some single player. So, just the demo is online only. Not sure there's a great interest in playing laser chess. I'm not sure there's even a great interest in playing regular chess. Is there a commander in play? No.
War is a drama of life and death.
All right, troops, get ready
I
for
could
war!
watch this all day.
So now this can evolve
One
for
step
free.
closer to victory!
War is the most sacred act.
Okay.
What do you think you're
Hit
doing?
that. Hit that. Next, we have a game on Steam called Cyberwinter, which looks like a low polygon game. $4.49, English and Russian. Gamma Sutra has the host of the IGF Awards, Victoria Tran. She is the Innersloth Games Community Director. That's pretty much all I could really say about her. I don't recognize her. Once again, important to point out that IGF is owned by the same parent company as Gamasutra. So that's just self-promotion. Here we have a game on Steam called Crypto Shooter, which I pretty much would never buy a game with crypto in the name or in its description. My fear is that there's just going to be actual crypto mining happening on your computer while you're playing or when you're not playing. They seem to literally say that this game has blockchain-based statistics and rewards in it, which, yeah, that's unnecessary extra work to put on your PC and potentially reduce the life of your PC.
It's a drama of life and death.
Let's see. Ooh. Let's see if this works.
Pillage and plunder.
Fanfare, remove all last word effects. Oh, there was no last word effects.
Press on!
That's a shame.
This is our last push!
War is the most sacred act. It's a miracle.
Such is temperance.
What do these do? Destroy 2 enemy followers? Okay, if I can play that next turn, that might work. Here we have a game called Cat Dungeon Escape. We may have already talked about this game. Yeah, we did. Then the Olympics game, we'll put it on the follow list. $39 and a whole bunch of full audio, it says. A whole bunch of languages. Next best ended. Here we have Life on a Pizza, which looks like nothing, and it's free. And then this showcase recap, that's the one I think may still be running. And then Phantom Abyss we had already talked about. And guess we should put that on the follow list just in case. Alright. So the showcase recap has a whole bunch of games that were showcased, and in this one it seems like they're doing a slightly better job of highlighting the big expansion, the big games. Like, what I'm not seeing is a long list of kind of nothing games. And see, they're just trying to get your attention. Of course, probably should just be turning this off so we can see how that would look properly. Slightly different. Yeah. It's getting darker. The blue from Valve is getting darker. They are slowly, I think, changing the blue from the Steam store. Because look at these. These were much lighter blues, and now they're just slowly changing the shades from the looks of it. And the only thing I think you could do is you could click show more here and just scroll down, and then click show more and just scroll down, and then you could probably do this for a while. And they probably have a list of 400 or 500 Steam pages of games coming out. Nope, not even that much. So yeah, we might as well check Steam itself. And yeah, you can see this top bar. Yeah, right now there's no big sale, so a couple days, maybe a week, I think we see a Steam summer sale. That may not really matter too much though. Like some of these games that are on sale right now it tends to be, if something's on sale right now or a week or even within the month previous of a game coming out, then they don't tend to actually be heavily discounted during the summer sale. Alright, let's go home. I'll have to play the rest of the arena off screen, which is to say I'm just gonna let them lose. I'm just gonna lose and get a few gold. There was this article. The Unity CEO predicts that AR/VR headsets will be common as game consoles by 2030, which is okay. Pick a number out of the air, basically. And then we have a game on Steam here called Gaz Materia: Return of the Generals, which feels like it's probably some kind of Russian troll joke game from the looks of it. $7.19. Yeah, I don't think there's really a game here. Let's see. On top of playing on the arena, I need one more Havencraft victory, one more ranked victory, and 3 more. Well, I need one more ranked victory after that, but that could be part of the 3 Swordcraft or Dragoncraft victories. Alright, well, then that brings me back to my Twitter feed. And I'm just going to go down my Twitter feed and look to see what new has come out in the past 3 hours and 41 minutes. And Gamma Sutra has that article about Steam's latest change aims to prevent buyers from gaming the regional pricing, which every time they try to do something like that, the European Union basically smacks them down and says, no, we want you to be able to buy freely across different regions in the European Union, that each European Union citizen, if they are to be considered citizens of the European Union as much as of their own independent country, should have the same rights and offers offered to them. Which, from a U.S. perspective, I don't know if we have any kind of similar things. We probably don't. The U.S. is so capitalistic, like crony capitalistic and just corrupt capitalism, for if you can use that phrase. I guess I was wrong. I guess EA didn't buy all of WB Games. I guess that would have been a much bigger story. That I wouldn't be surprised if from state to state, city to city, county to county in the United States, there is different pricing online. It may not be really worth it to go through that hassle, but it may very well be the case. I definitely can say that physical goods, gasoline, food, all of that changes drastically based on where you are. It would be very interesting if the federal government of the United States said, no, you have to sell gas at the same price all throughout the United States. It'd be very interesting. Also, here is we apparently have had no new games come out in the past 3 hours, so that is going to make this an easy wrap up. Maybe Twitter's just been borked for the last 3 hours. That might be the case. Yeah. So, let's reload this. Tabletop Simulator has a fan-made DLC for the Binding of Isaac spin-off tabletop card game, The Lost Cards Encore. I don't know if Encore is the new Kickstarter and card expansion that they are doing right now, or if this is something else. So that's interesting. I guess you subscribe? Interesting. Well, what do you mean? Subscribe to download this. This is Steam community. I guess I'm not logged in all of a sudden. Which that's an interesting idea, but it still kind of highlights an issue with anything I would try to cover, because it would be just 4-player online stuff, and I'd never be able to get 4 players together, let alone get 4 players together. They would be willing to play something slightly controversial like Binding of Isaac: The Lost Souls. And honestly, if I was going to play anything Binding of Isaac, I'd get Repentance, and I think that might be part of the summer sale that I pick up, even if it's not really discounted. Just the newest, allegedly finalist version of Binding of Isaac. Start over with a new save file, see how far I can go. Anyways, that's going to be it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.